Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Terra, Raven, Jinx and Starfire. Part 3. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. The Titans were all in the garage, with Cyborg in front of an object that was covered with a sheet. What's so important that you had to drag me away from playing video games? Beast Boy asked with a frown. I agree. Me and Raven were having fun with the meditation, Starfire said with a nod of agreement. Now. Cyborg said he was working on something and he wanted to show it to us, Naruto said. Cyborg nodded at this. Can I get a drumroll please? He asked Beast Boy. Beast Boy nodded and smiled at this as he transformed into a lemur and started to beat his belly like a drum. Ladies and gentlemen. And Beast Boy, Cyborg said with a teasing grin. Beast Boy turned back into his human form and frowned at him. Hey, you want a drumroll or not? He asked before he turned back into a lemur and continued to beat his belly. Sorry. Anyway, may I present to you the T-car? Cyborg said as he pulled away the sheet showing a car that was themed after Cyborg. Ooh, it's glorious, Starfire said with a smile. Very cool, Terra said with her own smile. Dude, you build an entire car? Beast Boy asked with a wide grin. It doesn't look like it will fit all of us though, Naruto said as he looked at the car. I thought of that. Why do you think I wanted your motorcycle? Cyborg said as he tapped a button on his wrist. The door nearby opened and showed a brand new motorcycle that was themed after Naruto's hero outfit. I present to you the Kage cycle, Cyborg said with a grin. Naruto smiled at this and went over to his new motorcycle. Thanks, he said with a smile at his friend before he looked his new bike over. Cyborg nodded at this. So, if you made Naruto some wheels, could you make me a moped? Beast Boy asked curiously. You can fly, Raven said flatly. Oh, sure, that's a good way to attract chicks, Beast Boy said with a frown. Starfire looked confused at this. Friend Beast Boy, why would you want to attract baby chickens? She asked him. Naruto chuckled at this, finding this cute. He wants to attract a girlfriend, Terra said, with a shake of her head, but she still smiled at her alien friend. Tell you what, BB, you actually get a date and I'll make you a moped. No questions asked, Cyborg said with a grin. Oh, you're gonna regret that, I never give up, Beast Boy said with a smile. All those poor girls, Raven said flatly, while shaking her head slightly. Okay, let's all go out on a ride. Cyborg said with a smile as he rubbed his hands together. Suddenly everyone's communicators went off. It looks like the joyride has to wait. We have a situation at an electronics store, Naruto said as he looked at his communicator. I'll drive, Cyborg said as he quickly hopped in the T-car. Naruto got on his motorcycle and Terra instantly got in the seat behind him. Starfire slightly pouted at this and Raven's eyebrow twitched slightly. Kill her. A voice in Raven's head yelled. Raven shook her head at this before she and Starfire got in the T-car. Minutes later. Whoa dude, this thing runs like a dream, Beast Boy said with a smile from the backseat of the car. Thanks. I put part of myself into this baby, Cyborg said with a smile. Starfire smiled as she looked at the buttons from her seat in the front. So many fascinating buttons, Starfire said as she started to push lots of buttons with a bright smile on her face. She then looked up and saw the wipers moving back and forth. Oh, they're dancing, she said with a grin as she clapped her hands. Before Cyborg could react, he saw Beast Boy as a dog and was sticking his head out of the window. Hey. You better not get drool on my paint job. He yelled. Raven rolled her eyes at this as she looked out the window and saw Naruto drive past them with Terra hugging him from her back seat. She growled slightly at this but said nothing as they drove along. Later. Outside an electronics store, Naruto parked his bike while the T-car arrived right behind him. Okay Titans, from what I saw of the report, it's an electric villain. So be smart and don't be reckless, Naruto said as he led his team inside. Hey man, nice wheels, a teen boy said to Cyborg as he and his fellow teen boy approached the car. Thanks, I put a lot of work into ow. Cyborg yelled as Raven grabbed him by his ear and dragged him off. Boy, she said flatly as she dragged Cyborg towards the electronics store while Cyborg activated his car alarm. The two teens looked at the car and then smirked at each other. Inside the electronics store. The Titans all saw what looked like an electronic monster. There was a small red chip that was in the middle of his body, which they presumed was the face, while they could see what looked like wires and robot parts for the arms and legs. Okay, you electro ripoff. Drop the appliances. Naruto yelled out. Overload must have more power. The creature yelled as he charged his body and attacked the Titans. Titans go. Naruto yelled as he and his team scattered. Raven used her magic to try and bind Overload with some giant appliances, but it did nothing. Cyborg charged at Overload, but some giant TVs blocked his way, so he started to punch his way through them. Beast Boy charged and turned into an electric eel, and when he made contact with Overload, he tried to absorb his power, but he was sent flying back due to there being too much power to absorb. Starfire rained starbolts down on Overload, who sent a few blasts of electricity back at her, causing her to dodge them. Naruto threw some kunais at Overload, but they did nothing to him. Terra raised her hands and summoned some rocks from the ground and sent them flying at Overload. The rocks hit him and sent him flying into a wall, which caused a water dispenser to shake before it fell over and break, sending the water flying. Overload yelled in pain as some water hit him and he fled from that area, away from the water. "I smell a weakness," Beast Boy said with a smile, upon seeing this. Naruto nodded as he pulled out some kunai and threw them at the sprinkler system on the ceiling, breaking them. The water started to rain down on all of them, and when it struck Overload, he yelled in pain as he started to short out. He soon fell to the floor and his body dispersed, leaving only a chip behind. "Well, that was easy," Naruto said with a smile as he walked over to the chip before picking it up. Outside. "Okay, how about to celebrate, we take the T-car to get some drive-through?" Cyborg asked with a smile at his team. What car?" Beast Boy asked, pointing at the parking lot. Cyborg looked at the parking lot and his eyes widened as he saw that his car was gone. "My baby!" Cyborg yelled as he ran into the parking lot. "Oh, I did not realize that Cyborg was a father," Starfire said. Raven sighed at this and held up a piece of paper that said metaphor on it for Starfire to see. "Oh. Haha." Starfire giggled as she rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Naruto frowned at this as he could tell the car meant a lot to Cyborg. "Okay everyone, I'll send a clone with Overload to the cops so all of us can split up and help Cyborg find his car," he said to his team. "Okay everyone, let's split up just in case it was a supervillain," Terra said with a nod as she punched her fist into her palm. "Okay, Terra is with me and we can check the drive-thrus. Beast Boy and Starfire, you take the skies. Cyborg and Raven, you take the racetrack," Naruto said. Cyborg nodded at this as those were good areas to check. The team all split up and took off to go find Cyborg's car. Later, with Naruto and Terra. Naruto and Terra were making their way to another drive-thru as the last few were bust. "This is the fifth one," Terra said with a frown. "We keep looking until we find his car," Naruto said. "Your loyalty to your friends is pretty big, huh?" Terra asked as she hugged Naruto from her backseat on his motorcycle. "Of course, you all are. I didn't have a lot of friends my own age back in Gotham, so you all are important to me," Naruto said over his shoulder. Terra smiled at this and rested her head on Naruto's back. They soon approached another drive-thru and saw Cyborg's car drive past them while they heard a familiar voice laughing. "Oh great, the gremlin," Naruto said with a groan. "Gizmo," Terra said with her own sigh, knowing who Naruto meant. "Get back here, you hobbit-looking freak." Cyborg yelled out as he drove a regular-looking car with Raven in the passenger seat. "Come on, let's help them," Naruto said as he spun the bike around causing smoke to appear before he revved the engine and raced after them, causing him to pop a wheelie for a moment before the front wheel went back down. As Naruto and Terra chased after Cyborg's car, they saw Raven use her magic to make the car she and Cyborg were using fly to try and catch up. "Huh, I didn't know Raven could do that," Naruto said as he revs his engine to give them a boost. Terra scowled at this before she jumped off his motorcycle and made a boulder float up from the ground and catch her, which she used to go after Cyborg's car. Before they could do anything, Cyborg jumped out of the flying car and landed on the hood of his car and looked into it at Gizmo, who was using a controller to drive the car. "Fuzzy dice. Now that's just tacky," Cyborg said. "Get off my car, you crud muncher," Gizmo yelled. They then heard a thud and saw Terra landing on the roof of the car. "Are you even old enough to drive, mini-me?" Terra asked with a smirk. "PFFTT," Cyborg said as he laughed. Gizmo growled at this and activated a button in the car which sent him flying thanks to an ejector seat. Terra was sent flying too, but Raven caught her with her powers, saving her from falling. "Drop her. She's after Naruto," a voice in Raven's head yelled at her. Raven ignored this and placed Terra in the car she was still making fly and slowly made the car land. Meanwhile, Cyborg's car crashed into a police truck that was on the road, going the opposite way. "My baby," Cyborg yelled as he ran to his car. "Ha! Looks like your stupid car is," Gizmo was saying from his floating down seat before Raven used her powers to make the attached parachute wrap him up tightly and gag him. As Cyborg ran to his car, they all saw Overload appear from the destroyed police truck. "Shit," Naruto said as they watched Overload merge with the car. "It's my car now," Overload said as he cackled and charged at Cyborg. Cyborg glared at the now possessed car and knew that if he didn't stop overload, then he could really harm the city. He then turned his arm into his sonic cannon and pointed it at overload. "It's not my car anymore," Cyborg said with a look of steel before he fired. The sonic attack instantly destroyed the car and caused it to explode. Overload's chip was sent flying and landed in front of them helpless. Naruto approached Cyborg and put his hand on his shoulder. "Sorry buddy," he said with a frown, as he knew this must hurt. Raven and Terra approached and nodded at Cyborg, showing their sympathy for him, as they could understand this was hard for him. Cyborg nodded at his team and looked at what looked like a chip from the T-car, which he recognized as the one he used from his own circuits to power it. "Maybe you can rebuild it," Terra said, hoping to cheer Cyborg up. "Yay. Make it better and add some security for idiots like this," Naruto said, gesturing to the tied-up Gizmo, who was trying to speak through the gag. "We can help you rebuild it," Raven said with a small smile, wanting to help cheer Cyborg up. Cyborg picked up his chip and smiled as he nodded at his friends. A few days later. Naruto was in his room, going over information he had gotten from Bruce about Deathstroke. He was really impressed that even Bruce had a hard time with Deathstroke. "What are you planning?" Naruto asked himself as he rubbed his chin in thought. "I think you should ask Bats for backup with this guy," Kurama said. Naruto shook his head at this. "No, I can handle this," he thought to Kurama. Before Kurama could respond, Naruto's door opened showing it was Cyborg. "What's up?" Naruto asked. "Deathstroke is on the video phone," Cyborg said with a serious look. Naruto's eyes widened in shock at this. "Did he say what he wanted?" he asked as he got up. "Just that he wants to talk," Cyborg said as they headed for the common room. Common room. Naruto and Cyborg entered the room and saw that the rest of the team was there, along with Deathstroke on the video phone. "Ah, Kitsukage. So nice to finally meet you," Deathstroke said. "What do you want, Deathstroke?" Naruto asked with a firm look. "I had heard you were trying to figure out my plans for the city lately and have no leads at all. How disappointing. I expected more from a student of the Bat," Deathstroke said as he shook his head while making a tutting noise. "And I suppose you're here to finally tell us?" Beast Boy asked with a frown as he crossed his arms. "Indeed. I assume you are all familiar with the coronation detonator?" Slade asked as he stepped to the side, showing what looked like a big high-tech bomb. Everyone but Beast Boy paled at this. "You're crazy," Cyborg said, frowning at him. "Why? What does it do?" Beast Boy asked. "It destroys coronations within a 5-mile radius," Starfire said with a frown. Beast Boy tilted his head in confusion. "It stops time for good," Raven said. "Dude." Beast Boy yelled in shock at Deathstroke's plan. "I was hoping you and your team would make an attempt at stopping me," Deathstroke said. "Tell me where you are and we will be there in a heartbeat," Naruto said. Now, I can't just tell you. You're trained by the world's best detective. I would recommend proving you're more than just the monster who," Deathstroke was saying before he stopped himself as he gave a shrug. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. How does he know? The League covered that up. He thought in a panic. "TikTok Kitsukage," Deathstroke said with a condescending tone before he cut off communications. "Damn it. We need to find him now," Naruto said. "How? We have no lead," Cyborg said with a frown. Raven approached the video screen and started to type into the keyboard, pulling up footage of the recent call. "What are you doing?" Terra asked her. "Deathstroke left us a clue," Raven said as she zoomed in on the image of the coronation detonator and showed a blurry image. "Great, squiggly images," Beast Boy said. Naruto looked at Cyborg, who nodded and approached the keyboard. A few keystrokes later and the image was cleared up and reversed, showing the words Pier 42. "The docks," Naruto said as he led his team out of the tower. Later at the docks. Naruto and the Titans were all on the roof across the street looking at a big warehouse. "Any signs of life?" Naruto asked Raven and Cyborg. Raven shook her head at this as she felt nothing from the warehouse. "Only thing in there is a bunch of robots," Cyborg said as he looked at his wrist display. "A stupid question, but doesn't anyone else think that this is too easy? What if Deathstroke wanted us to find this place?" Beast Boy asked. "Good point," Terra said. "He obviously wants us to rush in and attack his robots so we waste time, since according to Cyborg scanners, the coronation detonator is not in there," Naruto said looking at Cyborg, who nodded in agreement. "Then he obviously moved it," Starfire said. "Yes, but how can he move something so big so quickly?" Raven asked. "Well, in most video games, the villain would move something through the sewers if it's being moved from the docks," Beast Boy said with a grin. This caused the others to pause and look at Beast Boy in surprise. "Fantastic idea, BB. Okay Titans, let's move to the sewers," Naruto said. Beast Boy smiled at this, glad that Naruto took him seriously. They all left the rooftop and found a sewer entrance. "Sewers?" Naruto and the Titans were walking down a hallway, looking for any sign of Deathstroke's robots. "How are you walking on water?" Cyborg asked Naruto curiously. "Trade secret," Naruto said simply, while shrugging his shoulders. "It's your Chaka thing, right?" Beast Boy asked. Takra Raven corrected, with a roll of her eyes. They all soon saw what looked like a motorboat ahead and a couple of robots on it guarding. "The detonator. Titans go!" Naruto yelled, pointing at the boat. Before the Titans could respond, the wall burst as Cinderblock grabbed Naruto and pulled him into the room he was in. "Naruto!" Starfire yelled in worry. "I'm fine. Go after the detonator," Naruto yelled as he got free of Cinderblock and pulled out a kunai. The team nodded and took off after the motorboat, which was getting away. "Okay, asshole, I am having a really bad day right now. So you get one chance, you tell me where Deathstroke is or I ask you again, but it ends with you hurt," Naruto said with a glare. Cinderblock growled at this as he roared at Naruto and charged at him. "Oh please. I have heard worse from my friend Kurama," Naruto said as he charged at Cinderblock. "You actually understood what this walking pile of bricks said?" Kurama asked with a raised eyebrow. "I mean, his roar is pathetic next to yours. I don't speak moron like him," Naruto thought flatly as he dodged a fist by jumping to the side. Cinderblock swung at Naruto several times before he slammed his hands on the ground, sending Naruto flying. "Okay, that's it," Naruto yelled as he had no time to waste on this idiot. Kurama nodded at this and gave Naruto some of his chakra, which caused an orange aura to appear around Naruto. Naruto took a battle stance and charged at Cinderblock as he slammed his palm into his face. Before Cinderblock could respond, Naruto grabbed his head and pulled down as he flipped him, effectively throwing him through a wall. Naruto approached the new hole and saw that Cinderblock was knocked out. Naruto saw that there was a transmitter in Cinderblock's hand and glared as he picked it up. He saw that the transmitter was a map which showed where he was, along with where Deathstroke was. Naruto grinned at this. "Gotcha," he thought as he ran off. But Deathstroke was standing in front of his wall of monsters, watching footage of the other Titans chasing after the Chronoton detonator. "Interesting. He's actually trained his team pretty well," Deathstroke said as he observed Beast Boy use his powers to turn into a dolphin and quickly swim after the speedboat and jump on, with Raven carrying Cyborg to the boat while Starfire was carrying Terra. Suddenly, Naruto dropped down behind him, ready to attack. "Akatsuka-ge, you're earlier than I expected," Deathstroke said, not looking at Naruto. "Hand over the detonator and I may send you to Arkham with only one broken limb," Naruto said as he approached. Deathstroke turned to look at Naruto and showed he had a detonator in his hand before he put it on his belt. "If you wish to take it, then let's see your skills," Deathstroke said as he reached behind him and pulled out two katana swords. Naruto pulled out his kunai while Deathstroke brandished his swords. They stared down one another for a few moments before charging at each other. Deathstroke swiped his sword at Naruto, who narrowly ducked as his hair was split off by the sword. Their blades clashed against one another, with sparks flying between them. Naruto jumped back to avoid a downward slash while tossing a kunai at Deathstroke, who caught it in his hand, then tightly tossing it back at Naruto, who parried it with his other kunai. Naruto performed his hand signs, summoning 4 clones each armed and ready. Deathstroke just tightened his grip, slashing at the clones with 2 coming at him from his sides, holding back his swords. He then saw another running at him in the middle, causing him to narrow his eye. He then applied some great force, pushing off the clone on his left and sweeping under the clone on his right, finally bisecting the clone as he jumped at him. The other 2 clones growled before running at Deathstroke, gripping one by the collar, he threw it into the other, causing both to dispel. "Is this really all you can do, Katsuka-ge? After your actions with the Joker, I expected far more from you," Deathstroke said, smirking under his mask as he saw the rage in Naruto's eyes. "Why don't you show me that beast that spread fear throughout Gotham? The one that ended one of its greatest criminals, the one who did what a coward like Batman couldn't do," Deathstroke taunted, further angering Naruto. Naruto gave a loud roar at this as he charged at Deathstroke as his blades gained a red glow around them. He swiped at Deathstroke again, pushing him back a bit. Spin kicking him in the chest, Naruto aimed to punch at Deathstroke, but the man caught his fist, causing him to smirk, confusing him as he jumped back. "Boom," Naruto said suddenly as Deathstroke looked down at his chest to see a paper bomb attached, creating a small explosion, but strong enough to push him into the nearby wall. Naruto slammed his fist into the assassin's chest, making his body crack with pain, before he began driving more and more hard punches into the older man's gut, speeding up the pace of the attacks. Soon, Deathstroke fell to the floor and Naruto grabbed at his belt as he took the detonator. He looked at it in his hands and sighed, feeling relieved before the detonator sparked and fell to pieces. Naruto gained an angry look and turned to Deathstroke but saw his mask fall off, showing that it was another robot. "I must say, I'm most impressed. That was quite an expensive robot you just defeated. Granted, it may have been a poor copy of my own skills. But still, the fact that you beat him is very impressive, Deathstroke said as he appeared from the shadows nearby. I'm done playing your games. Where is the trigger? Naruto demanded as he pulled out another kunai and held it in a reverse grip. Trigger? There's no trigger because there is no detonator, Deathstroke said, sounding amused as he walked around Naruto, not taking his eye off him. What do you mean there's no trigger or detonator? What's your plan? Naruto asked with a frown. Poor Katsuki. You may be very well trained by the bat, but your detective skills need some work, Deathstroke said smugly. Then why don't you enlighten me? Naruto said with a glare. All these months, setting up crimes for you and your team to solve, hasn't been about taking over the city. It's been about you, Deathstroke said. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. You see, for a long time now, I have been looking for a student to pass on my skills and experience. An apprentice, and Katsuki, I have chosen you. Congratulations, Deathstroke said as he looked at Naruto. If you think I'm gonna, Naruto was saying before he got interrupted. Oh, I think you will if you look at my monitors, Deathstroke said as he gestured at them. Naruto turned to look at the monitors and saw that his friends finally made it to the fake detonator. But when they disarmed it, a hidden blaster on the speedboat opened fire on them, hitting each of them. But it seemed to do nothing. New monitors then lit up, showing images of what looked like drones attached to the blood cells of the insides of someone. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the names on each of the 5 screens, which listed his friends. As you can see, my micro-drones are now inside your friends, ready to attack with just the push of a switch, Deathstroke said as he held up his hand, showing he indeed had a small trigger in his hand. Naruto growled at this as he turned to attack. But someone grabbed him and slammed him to the ground and put him in a hold. Naruto growled as he looked over his shoulder and saw it was Ravager. I'll let this attack slide this time. But from now on, you so much as hinted attacking me or Ravager and your friends will have a very unpleasant death, Deathstroke said as he held his thumb over the trigger. Naruto glared at Deathstroke with pure hatred as his eyes lit. Ah, and there is that power you have, Deathstroke said with a pleased tone. I could help you learn control of that, unlike the bat, who I'm sure just told you to keep it in control. And how would you help me control it anyway? Naruto demanded to know. Now, I can't give you that for nothing. You have to earn that. So, do we have a deal? Deathstroke asked. Naruto turned his head to look at the monitors, which showed the micro-drones that were ready to hurt his friends. Naruto growled as he knew what he had to do. Later, at Titan's tower. The Titans were in the tower, trying to use their computer to find a lead on where Naruto is. Have you found friend Naruto yet? Starfire asked Cyborg as she floated behind him. No, as his tracker is turned off and there are no sightings in the city surveillance systems, Cyborg said with a frown as he typed on the computer. One of us should have stayed with him, Terra said with worry in her voice as she leaned against the wall. You should have said something then, Raven said with an edge in her voice. You got something to say to me? Terra asked with a light glare as she pushed herself off the wall. Okay, enough. The fighting won't help us find Naruto, Starfire said, getting in between Raven and Terra. Yay. If you're gonna fight, we should get some mud and sell tickets, Fi-ow. Beast Boy yelled as Raven used her powers to give him a wedgie. Now is not the time for the joke, Starfire said with a frown. Suddenly, the alarms went off. What is it? Beast Boy asked as he fixed his uniform. Trouble at Wayne Enterprises, Cyborg said. I thought that was in Gotham, Terra said with a raised eyebrow. That company has buildings in lots of cities, Cyborg said as he turned to the team and led them out of the tower. Later, at Wayne Tech. Inside a tech lab, an experimental blaster was being guarded by several armed men in armor. Suddenly, the power went out and the guards were instantly attacked from behind. The figure attacked them in their pressure points, instantly knocking them out. Soon, the lights came back on, showing it was Naruto. But he was in a jumpsuit similar to Deathstroke with the same mask as his Katsuki outfit. Very impressive. Now, take the blaster and put it on, Deathstroke said from the comm in his ear. Naruto said nothing as he took the blaster and attached it to his wrist before heading for the vent he used to enter the building. When he made it outside and started to head for the end of the rooftop, he was suddenly surrounded by the Titans. Naruto? Starfire asked, surprise on her face. Terra's eyes widened at this as she looked at Naruto's new outfit. Dude, Beast Boy said, his eyes wide. What's going on? Raven asked with a frown. Yay, this isn't like you. What's the deal? Cyborg asked with a raised eyebrow. Naruto looked at his friends with a hard look. Say nothing, you know what will happen if you don't. Remember, they are not your friends anymore, Deathstroke said. Naruto clenched his fist at this and soon threw some kunai at the Titans. Terra blocked with some earth walls, but before she could react, the kunais exploded and sent her flying into Cyborg's arms. Naruto then ran to Beast Boy, who held up his arms. "Wait dude. I don't want a," Beast Boy was saying, before Naruto slugged him in the stomach and then threw him into Raven. "Dude, you need to stop this. I don't want to hurt you," Cyborg said, as he readied his sonic cannon. Naruto charged at Cyborg and slammed a low-powered Rasengan into his sonic cannon, effectively destroying it. Thankfully not hurting his arm, but taking out his sonic cannon for a bit. "Hey. That's expensive to fight," Cyborg said, before Naruto tripped him and jumped on top of the Wayne Tech sign before he started to try and retreat by running along it. "Stop." Starfire yelled as she blocked his path, her hand glowing with a ready starbolt. "Naruto, you are my best friend and I know you wouldn't do this without a reason. So please, stop. I don't want to fight you," Starfire said, with some tears forming in the corner of her eyes. Naruto saw her tears and frowned. "Starfire, I don't," he was saying, before he got interrupted. "Kitsune. I said you have no friends anymore. If your friends are gonna be a distraction," Deathstroke said with a hard tone. Suddenly, Starfire groaned in pain as her body started to glow orange and she fell to the roof. Naruto quickly jumped off the sign and caught her before she hit the ground. Naruto held Starfire, panic on his face as he looked around and saw his other friends glowing orange and groaning in pain. "No no no no. Please stop." Naruto yelled as he started to panic. "Then you fight them. Fight them to save them," Deathstroke said. Naruto growled at this as he hated this more than even what happened years ago, as him losing his friends was what he feared most. Naruto placed Starfire on the ground and stood up. "Naruto," Starfire said as she tried to reach out for him. Naruto tried to hold back his tears and aimed his blaster at her. "I'm sorry," he said before he fired it, making a flash of light appear. When the flash disappeared, the Titans weren't glowing anymore and were slowly getting up. "What was that?" Terra asked as she got up along with the other Titans. "Yay. Since when can Naruto do that orange glowing thing?" Beast Boy asked curiously. "It wasn't him. I felt nothing but sorrow and fear from him," Raven said with a frown. Cyborg looked around to make sure Naruto was gone before he looked at his damaged arm and his electronic eye caught something. "What, he hurt your arm worse than you thought?" Terra asked as she folded her arms. Cyborg's robot eye glowed as he looked at his arm and saw an invisible ink message on his arm that simply said microbots. But Deathstroke and Ravager watched the footage of Naruto fighting the Titans. "He's pretty good," Ravager said with an impressed look. "Indeed. And this is him holding back," Deathstroke said with a nod as he could tell Naruto was barely trying. Suddenly the door exploded open and Naruto came in with his body glowing orange from Kurama's chakra. "Ah, is this the power that you used to kill the Joker?" Deathstroke asked, sounding amused. "You're about to find out." Naruto roared, with his whisker marks way more defined, his eyes red and slitted while his nails turned into claws. Ravager charged at Naruto, but in an instant Naruto grabbed her by her arm and swung her hard, throwing her into a rotating gear nearby. Naruto then charged at Deathstroke with a roar and slashed at him with his claws. Deathstroke slashed Naruto across the chest, causing blood to leak from his wound. Naruto snarled at this as he charged at Deathstroke again, flipping around as he slashed and kicked at Deathstroke, who avoided and countered his moves. Naruto then brought his arms into an X shape before swiping his blade, sending out a cross-shaped blast of compressed air, blasting Deathstroke into the wall and breaking off pieces of his armor in the process. "Are you sure you want to do this, Kitsukage? After all, I have your friends' lives in the palm of my hand," Deathstroke said, clutching his hand. Naruto gasped at this as his eyes narrowed and his fangs bared as red chakra began to seep out from his body. Memories began flashing through his mind, his hand plunged into the chest of the purple suit and a sadistic smile on his face. "I knew you were a killer kid," the Joker said as he coughed out blood. Naruto saw only red as he got to all fours as red chakra covered his body, forming a one-tail chakra cloak. Deathstroke was taken aback at this as he had seen this power from footage of the attack in Gotham, but to actually face it was another thing entirely. Before he could react in time, Naruto's chakra tail swiped him across the chest, sending him crashing away into the wall once again. Naruto then appeared in front of him, with his claws bared, slashing him across the chest, spraying out blood. He jumped after him, gripping him by his face and smashing him into the ground hard, with the impact cratered to ground. Naruto coated his fist in chakra into his fist, smashing it into Deathstroke's chest again and again, not giving him any time to fight back. He then jumped away a good distance, wrapping his tail around Deathstroke's neck and hanging him up by his neck. Naruto snarled as he held out his hand, forming a bubbling purple Rasengan. He held it up high, ready to smash it into Deathstroke's face. With a loud cry, he thrusts his attack forward, only for it to be held back by an aura of magic energy. "Naruto, stop!" a voice shouted. Naruto turned his head over to see the other titans running into the room. Naruto's eyes snapped back to normal, and his chakra aura stopped for a moment but didn't disappear. "Guys, get out of here." That blaster, he was saying, before Beast Boy held up his hand to stop him. "Dude, we already know," Beast Boy said. "And we don't care," Cyborg said as he approached a machine nearby which controlled the micro-drones and ripped off the main part of it. Starfire and Raven approached Naruto and placed their hands on his shoulders to calm him down. Naruto's chakra aura finally faded at this as he sighed. "Looks like you've lost your leverage over Kitsukage," Deathstroke Terra said as she approached him. Deathstroke said nothing to this as he pushed a button on his wrist. The room started to shake as it began to fall apart. "Shit. He's set this place to destroy itself," Naruto yelled to his friends. Suddenly, Ravager ran past them and grabbed Deathstroke before she retreated. "Hey!" Terra yelled as she moved to follow after them. "Let them go. We need to get out of here," Naruto yelled to her. Raven nodded in agreement as she waved her arms and made shadows surround them to form a raven and fly off out of the area to safety. Titan's Tower, sometime later. Naruto was sitting in the common room with his friends, waiting on Cyborg to finish removing the micro-drones from them, which was thankfully possible, since they took the tech Deathstroke used to infect them in the first place. Right now, Beast Boy was covered with wires and wore a mask, as he was the last one getting the treatment. "Are we done yet? I feel like I'm gonna suffocate from this dude," Beast Boy yelled from behind the mask. Cyborg looked at his computer screen and smiled as he nodded before he gave Beast Boy a thumbs up. "Finally," Beast Boy yelled as he took the mask and wires off. "I'm glad you are all safe," Naruto said with a relieved sigh. "Yay, us too. But are you okay?" Terra asked Naruto in concern. "Indeed. I am most worried about you after how badly you beat Deathstroke," Starfire said as she didn't like seeing Naruto in his chakra cloak. Naruto smiled at this and shook his head. "I'm fine, Star, don't worry," he said as he patted his alien friend on the head. Starfire blushed lightly at this but smiled at Naruto, glad that he was okay. Raven and Terra glared lightly at this but said nothing. "Okay dudes and dudettes, we beat Deathstroke and saved the city. I say we celebrate with a breakfast buffet," Beast Boy yelled in excitement. "Booyah. But no tofu," Cyborg yelled as he followed Beast Boy into the kitchen. Beast Boy and Cyborg started to make food and started to yell at each other over food choices. Naruto laughed at this as he and the others approached to try and defuse the situation. Old Arkham Ruins. Inside the old Arkham Ruins, in a dark room, a shadowed figure watched a mini-TV which showed footage of the Titans helping the citizens of Jump City and fighting villains. "Well, it would seem that the Titans led by Gotham's Kitsukage are becoming a real hero team for our fair city," an anchorman said with a smile as an image of the team was shown. The mallet then smashed the TV, destroying it. "So, that demon freak that killed my pudding has a hero team now, huh?" a female voice said as she stepped out of the shadows. She had her hair in twin pigtails, with the tips on one dyed red and the other dyed black, while she had black eyeshadow around her eyes, along with black lipstick. She wore a black and red sleeveless bodice, with sleeves on her arms just reaching her shoulders, with the wrists being frilly and red and black gloves on either hand. She also wore red and black knee-high boots, black pants with a red diamond symbol on her right thigh, which was broken up into 4 diamonds and a red belt. This was Harley Quinn, former partner and lover of the Joker. "So, are we heading to Jump City, boss?" a male minion asked while the minions stood nearby. The now revealed Harley Quinn smiled madly at this. "Of course we are. Kitsukage killed my pudding, so we're gonna make Jump City burn until there is nothing left," she yelled before she laughed maniacally. Naruto and Terra were training in the training room, doing their regular training with Terra's powers. Today, Terra was working with some metal sheets, trying to get some progress with controlling metal. Terra growled in annoyance as the metal sheets did nothing, no matter how hard she tried to move them. Naruto sighed as he approached and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Hey, it's okay. This kind of thing takes time," he said as he figured manipulating a sub-element of Earth would be way harder to learn. Terra froze at this and brushed Naruto's hand off as she composed herself, trying not to show her blush. "Look, how about we go out to eat and relax a bit? I don't need my teammate to be miserable," Naruto said, smiling at Terra, hoping to cheer her up. Terra smiled at this, glad Naruto, while good at training her, was never harsh with her and always made sure she was okay. They then heard a crash outside. "I said that it's my turn to use the TV, you green freak," Cyborg's voice yelled out. "And I said that I want to play my new game," Beast Boy's voice yelled back. "And I believe that I said, you two idiots need to shut up so that I can read in peace," Raven's voice yelled at them both. Naruto sighed at this and looked at Terra. "Rain check?" he asked, wanting to make it clear he wasn't ditching her. Terra nodded at this. "Yay, let's go stop them from destroying the tower," she said. They both followed the yelling and soon arrived in the common room and saw that Cyborg, Beast Boy and Raven were arguing, with Starfire trying to stop them while holding a broken necklace in her hands. "Okay, enough." Naruto yelled out, adding chakra to his throat so that his voice was louder, which caused the windows to shake slightly. Everyone stopped at this and looked at Naruto. "Whoa, nice pipe," Cyborg said, holding his ear slightly. "What?" Beast Boy yelled out as his hearing was slightly damaged since his ears were more sensitive. Raven rolled her eyes at this and used her magic to try and heal Beast Boy. "Now, what the heck is going on?" Naruto asked. "Our friends were fighting and on Blorthog," Starfire said, sounding sad as she looked at her destroyed necklace. "We weren't actually throwing punches, Cyborg said. "Yay, but you all should have a better way to settle this stuff besides yelling at each other all the time," Terra said with a frown. "What is Blorthog, Star?" Naruto asked curiously as he helped Starfire pick up the mess a little bit. "It's a holiday on my home planet that celebrates friendship," Starfire said. Naruto smiled at this. "I like the sound of it," he said, as he definitely liked the idea of a holiday like that. Starfire smiled brightly at this, glad that Naruto liked the idea. Suddenly, the alarm went off and Naruto went over to the computer to see what caused the alarm. "We can celebrate this later, Starfire. For now, there is a robbery at the museum," Naruto said. The rest of the Titans nodded at this and they all followed Naruto out of the tower. Jump City Museum. Inside the museum, a man was walking around. He had a long goatee and mustache while wearing what looked like a gold suit of armor with black pants and shirt underneath. This man was known as Warp. Warp approached what looked like a miniature clock and used some kind of tech to make a portal in the glass case so he could reach in and grab it. "Valuable in this time, but priceless in my time," Warp said with a grin as he held the clock in his hand. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him and turned around to see the Titans behind him. "No window shopping for you, Tin Man," Naruto said as he readied a kunai. "Ah, Kitsuke of the Teen Titans. You're well known in the future, along with your teammates," Warp said as he looked at the other Titans. "Ah, I see I am at a point in time when you are missing a few teammates," he said. This made the Titans look confused at this. "What does he mean?" Starfire asked curiously as she tilted her head. "I am from the future, you fool," Warp said as he threw what looked like a high-tech grenade and fired a blast from his palm at them, making the Titans scatter. "The future?" Cyborg asked curiously. "Cool. Do I ever find true love? Do I become rich and famous?" Beast Boy asked with a grin. "Well, one of those," Warp said as he rolled his eyes at Beast Boy's questions and jumped back as Beast Boy swung at him as a gorilla. "Wait, we get other teammates?" Terra asked curiously as she tried to block Warp's way with an earth wall, but he went right through it after turning it to dust. "I don't have time for this. I am on a schedule," Warp said as he touched his chest, which caused it to glow. Naruto threw a kunai at Warp, which struck his chest. "You fool. That is my only way," Warp was saying before Starfire slugged him in the chest, making the glowing part fall off and hit the ground. When the piece of tech hit the ground, it fired a ball of light at Starfire which struck her and in a burst of light she disappeared. Naruto's eyes widened at this as he ran to where she was. "Starfire!" he yelled out before he turned to Warp and pulled out a kunai as he grabbed him by his throat and slammed him against a wall. "But Starfire!" In a burst of light, Starfire appeared in the museum. Starfire looked around and saw that the museum was more high-tech and that there were civilians looking at her curiously. "Where am I?" she asked a woman curiously as she flew over to her. You're in Jump City Museum, sweetie," the woman said, looking at Starfire. "Are you a new recruit for the Titans?" a teen boy asked her curiously. "They have enough Tamaranians, especially with the twins there," an older woman said with a chuckle. Starfire tilted her head at this. "There are others from my planet here?" she asked curiously. "Oh, sure. They were born here, but they are at least half your people," the older woman said. Starfire smiled at this as she clapped her hands together. "Oh, wonderful. I shall go meet them. Where are they?" she asked happily. They are usually at Titan's Tower when not fighting crime," another teen boy said. Starfire nodded at this and took off out of the museum excitedly. She kinda looked like Starfire back when she was just starting out as a hero," the first teen boy said, tilting his head slightly. "Nah, she wasn't that stacked as a teen," the second teen boy next to him said. "Oh? And how would you know?" the first teen boy asked him as he crossed his arms. "This debate is stupid," the older woman said with a huff. "But Starfire." Starfire flew towards Titan's Tower and saw that it was a little different than she was used to. It now looked way more high-tech than before. Starfire landed at the front door and a panel opened as it scanned her. "Welcome home, original Titan Starfire," a computer voice said as the door opened. "You know me?" Starfire asked curiously as she entered the tower. "Indeed, Miss Starfire. The Titans will be happy to see you, especially Kushina and Iruka," the computer voice said. "Who are they?" Starfire asked curiously. Before she could get an answer, the doors to the common room opened and she was tackled by Blur into a hug. "Oh glorious, Mom is here to visit." A radiated teen girl with orange skin and blue eyes yelled as she hugged Starfire. The teen boy that had red hair and blue eyes looked at this and quirked an eyebrow at this. I don't think that's Mom Kushina," he said. What do you mean Iruka?" the teen girl asked as she looked at Starfire. "She kinda looks like Auntie Starfire," a blonde boy said as he looked up from some pizza he was eating. He had a black shirt on and had some earth gloves on along with cargo pants. The teen girl with violet hair, who was wearing a cloak similar to Raven, looked up from her book and looked at Starfire as she blinked in surprise before she sighed. "I'll call Mom. I smell time travel shenanigans," she said as she walked over to the computer. "I don't understand. What's going on and where are my friends?" Starfire asked curiously. "I think the real question is, when are your friends?" a voice said from behind her, making her jump. She looked behind her and saw a teen boy with light gray skin and short pink hair. "Johnny, would you stop being a moron?" the girl with violet hair said from the computer. "Oh lighten up, would you sis?" Johnny said with a smile. "We only share a dad," she said as she looked over with a scowl. "Oh, stop being a sourpuss. We grew up as siblings and Dad made it clear. We are family. So nah," Johnny said as he made a face at her. The girl rolled her eyes at him before her hand was covered in dark energy and she made a few pillows fly over and start hitting him. "Love you too sis," Johnny said with a smile before he ran off with the pillows following him. "You're siblings?" Starfire asked curiously. "Well, most of us are," the blonde boy said with a smile as he placed his hands behind his head. Starfire tilted her head in confusion at this. "Oh, I think I remember this story," Kushina said with a bright smile. "You fought a villain named Warp, right?" "Indeed. He said he was from the future," Starfire said as her eyes widened in realization. "And it looks like the penny has finally dropped," the violet-haired girl said. "Oh, how nice. She may be from the past, but she's family," a new voice said. They all turned and saw a teen black girl with what looked like insect wings. "Hey, Johnny said, waving as the pillows hit him. "So you too?" Starfire asked, looking at Kushina and Iruka. "Hi Mom," Kushina said with a bright smile as she waved at her. Starfire's eyes went wide at this and she did the only thing she could do. She fainted. "Well, at least now I can call Mom in peace," the violet-haired girl said. "Terra, lighten up," Iruka said with a sigh. "Okay, I brought more pizza," a green-skinned teen boy with diamond gauntlets on his hand said as he entered the common room. "Little late Nathan," Johnny said flatly. The now named Nathan looked at the passed-out Starfire. "Oh geez. Is this Auntie Star from the Warp story?" he asked. "Looks like it," Ray said with a nod. "You tell her most of you are related?" Nathan asked as he put the pizzas down on a counter. "Yay, we haven't got that far. She just found out that me and sis are her kids before she passed out," Iruka said with a sigh as Kushina carried Starfire to the couch. "Probably best to not tell her that Dad's a horn dog," Terra said while rolling her eyes. "Five girls make him a horn dog?" Nathan asked with a raised eyebrow. "No. I think the fact that Dad has a do not disturb sign on his door that's almost never off makes him one," the blonde teen said with a smile. Nathan laughed at this and nodded in agreement. "Yay, that's a good point Haru," he said, as even if their dad wasn't related to him, he knew how he was with his wives. Though, to be fair, according to Mom, he didn't start like that. If anything, he was too shy to make the first move, Johnny said with a smile. "Obviously he got over it if he has 6 kids," Ray said, pointing at herself and the others, besides Nathan. "Okay, new subject," Terra said as the video phone rang. The screen soon changed to show an image of Raven, only she looked older. "Hey Mom," Terra said with a smile. "You usually don't call unless it's an emergency, honey. What's wrong?" Raven asked her. Terra groaned at this as her mom still doted on her even when she was a teen. "Hey Auntie Ray. We have a situation involving Auntie Star," Haru said, waving at Raven. "How can you have a problem with Starfire? I just saw her with your father," Raven said before she got interrupted. "I don't want to hear this," Terra yelled while covering her ears. "They weren't doing that. Get your mind out of the gutter," Raven said while rolling her eyes. "We have a time-traveling incident. Remember that story about Warp?" Iruka asked. Raven's eyes widened at this. Oh geez, this is when she shows up. Okay, we are on our way. Don't let her leave the tower, she said before she looked to the side. Put your damn clothes on, we have a situation. She yelled out before the call cut off. Weren't doing that my ass, Terra said as she shuddered. I find it cute that Dad's marriage with his wives is strong after so long, Kushina said with a smile. Later. Starfire groaned as she woke up and saw the Titans of this time looking at her. Hey mom. Don't worry, we have a way to send you woe. Haruka yelled as Starfire pulled him and Kushina into a tight hug. My precious bumbers. Starfire yelled happily as she hugged the twins with a bright smile. Oh yay, that's definitely anti-Star, Haru said with a smile, as this was something she did all the time when she visited. Oh, glorious. Are you all kids of my friends? Starfire asked as she looked at the others. Johnny nodded at this. Yeah, pretty much. I'm Johnny, he said as he waved at her. Though from what I read in the archive, I don't think you have met my mom yet, Ray said. Oh? Who is she? Starfire asked with a tilt of her head. No spoilers, Auntie Ray said with a sigh. Starfire pouted at this and looked at the others. I am assuming your friend Terra's child. She asked Haru. Yup, he said with a nod. Starfire smiled at this and looked at Nathan. Oh, wonderful. Friend Beast Boy had a child, she said, clapping her hands happily. Yup. Dad and Mom will probably meet soon in your time, so you will meet her eventually, Nathan said. If we can get you home, Terra said flatly as she crossed her arms. Well, obviously she will, otherwise Auntie Star's older self wouldn't be around, Johnny said. And neither would we, Kushina said as she gave Haruka a side hug. Starfire looked at Terra and her eyes widened. Friend Raven had a child? She asked in surprise. Obviously, Terra said with a roll of her eyes. I am most glad that friend Raven found love. Oh please, tell me who is it that made her happy? Starfire asked with a smile. Suddenly the doors opened and an older-looking Naruto rushed in. Okay, where is the problem? He asked. Hey Dad, all the Titans, besides Nathan, said together. Starfire looked over in surprise at seeing an older Naruto. But before she could say anything, she paused. Dad. She yelled in surprise. Yup. Dad's a horndog, Johnny said with a mischievous smile. Starfire fainted again at this. Raven, Starfire and Terra then entered the room. Good job keeping that secret, Terra said, with sarcasm lacing her words. No problem, ow. Johnny said before Terra smacked him upside his head. You do realize we will have to alter her memory of that info now, right? Terra asked with a frown. Aw. Do we have to? Kushina whined as she gave a pout. Sadly, yes. If she goes back and says the words harem and multiple kids before the time we actually started this whole thing, it may change things in the future drastically, Raven said. You say it like you don't enjoy it, Naruto said with a smile at Raven as he hugged her. Hush you, Raven said as she smirked and pinched his hand, which was on her ass. Okay, all of you clear out. We can handle this now, Starfire said kindly to the teens. The teens all nodded at this and got up to leave. Where is Mom and Auntie Jinx? Ray asked Raven, who finally got loose from Naruto. Since at this point, this star hasn't met B or accepted Jinx yet, I figured it would be best to leave them at home, Raven said. You didn't mention your mom, did you, Nathan? Terra asked the green teen. Only that she'll meet her eventually, he said. Good, cause we don't need that ruin, Raven said with a sigh of relief. I know. They are so cute together. Starfire said with a smile. Did she ask about Cyborg? Terra asked curiously. Didn't get to that yet. Thankfully, Rick is off training with Uncle Sai and Auntie Pantha this week, Haruka said with a sigh. The younger Starfire groaned as she started to wake up. Okay, you all get moving, Terra said to the teens, who quickly left. Raven then grabbed Naruto and pushed him out. You too. We don't need her drooling over you, Raven said. Like she doesn't do that now? Naruto asked, looking at the older Starfire with a smirk. The older Starfire giggled at this before she blew him a kiss. Get moving before I get the hose, Terra said with a chuckle. Naruto pouted at this and started walking. But when he passed Terra, he smacked her on the ass. Oh, that's it. Terra yelled as she started chasing Naruto as he laughed. 20 years later, and they are still acting like this, Raven said with a sigh as she shook her head slightly. Starfire giggled at this. I know. It's so much fun, she said. Raven nodded at this and had a small smile as she wouldn't change a thing. Ugh, what's going on? The younger Starfire said as she sat up with a groan. Oh good, you're unhurt, the older Starfire said with a smile. The younger Starfire looked at her older self in surprise. Hey, are you me? She asked. The older Starfire smiled at this and nodded. Indeed I am, she said. So, we married Naruto? The younger Starfire asked as she stood up. "You're not the only one," Terra said as she entered the room. "Didn't catch him?" Raven asked flatly, but with a teasing tone. Terra said nothing, but looked away with a pout as she crossed her arms. "So Naruto married all of us?" the younger Starfire asked. "Indeed. As you know, that is common on Tamarin," the older Starfire said. Younger Starfire nodded at this before looking at her older self, Terra and Raven. "I can't believe how big you guys have gotten with everything," she said as she looked at her smaller breasts and ass compared to her older self. "This is a moot point anyway, since I'm gonna remove your memory of the future before I send you back to your time," Raven said. Younger Starfire's eyes widened at this as Raven made a portal with her hands. "Oh, don't worry. I leave the knowledge that the future is great," Raven said with a kind smile at her younger version of her best friend. "Thank you, friend Raven. Is there anything I can do to repay this kindness?" the younger Starfire asked. Raven nodded at this and made a big book appear in her hand. "Please pass this to my younger self," she said. Starfire took the book and nodded before she approached the portal. Raven placed her hand on Starfire's head and after she took her memory of the future, she pushed her through the portal. As the portal closed, Raven smiled. "Okay, what did you do?" Terra asked her, knowing this look. "I may have left some information with her that should help our younger selves accept the harem," Raven said. "Ah. I do recall thinking that all of us that love Naruto getting along being most important after I returned to the past," the older Starfire said with a nod of understanding. "Exactly," Raven said with a smile, knowing that Starfire was the glue that kept the group together. "Aw. Did I just miss seeing the younger version of my sister?" a voice said as the girls turned around to see an older Blackfire at the doorway. "Yup, she just went back home to her time," Terra said with a nod. Blackfire gave a playful pout as she crossed her arms. "And here I was, planning on teasing her a little," she said with a playful grin. "You do enough of that with this version of Starfire," Raven said flatly as she pointed her thumb at the older Starfire. True, Blackfire said with a nod. "So, did Beep and Barber come over as well?" Terra asked curiously. "Oh, and what of your kids?" Starfire added with a smile as she clapped her hands together. "They're all in the games room, hanging out," Blackfire said with a smile. "Why don't we go join them?" Terra said. "Indeed. I wish to spend time with my niece and nephew," Starfire said with a smile as the four of them walked off. Back in the past. Naruto had warp by his throat as he choked him. "You better bring Starfire back before I gut you like a fish," Naruto growled as his whisker marks became more defined and his eyes slitted as they began to turn red. "I don't know how Warp choked out as he started to turn blue. Naruto growled as he started to close his fist on Warp's throat. Suddenly, a portal opened up in the middle of the room and Starfire fell out of the portal before it closed back up. "Starfire!" the other Titans yelled as they ran to greet her. Naruto dropped Warp and leaned forward towards him. "You're lucky, so you should treasure the fact that you're still alive," Naruto whispered to Warp as his chakra receded. The police then came in and took the scared villain away. Later at Titan's Tower. Starfire had just finished explaining what she could remember. "So, you went to the future?" Cyborg asked with a raised eyebrow. "But you can't remember anything?" Terra asked curiously. "Indeed. I think that future Raven removed memories of the future," Starfire said as she looked at Raven, who was looking over the book she had gotten from the future with interest. "Aw man, leave it to Raven to be a sourpuss," Beast Boy said with a pout as he wanted some future information. She obviously didn't want Starfire revealing things too early, as that would have had disastrous consequences in the future, Naruto said. Raven looked up from her book and nodded as she agreed that was something she would do. "Anything good in that book?" Terra asked curiously. "Just some spells. One here may help me get full control of my powers," Raven said with a small smile. Naruto smiled at this. "That's fantastic. I hope you can actually feel emotions freely soon," he said. Raven covered her face with the book to hide her blush from view. A few days later. Naruto was in the training room, training with his clones. "I still don't know why you feel the need to instruct me in getting stronger," Naruto thought of Kurama as he tried to add wind chakra to his Rasengan. "Because I refuse to let my container be a weakling. With the crazy shit in this world, I don't need you getting blindsided." Kurama yelled at Naruto, making him grab his head slightly in pain. "Hey dude." Beast Boy yelled as he ran into the training room. "Hey Beast Boy, what's up?" Naruto asked as he dissipated his Rasengan. "Not much. I was bored and wanted to hang out with ya since the others are busy," Beast Boy said with a shrug. "Well, I was training to get stronger. So I'll tell you what, me and you can train together a bit, then we can go out and have some fun," Naruto said with a smile. "Deal." Beast Boy said with his own smile. "So, have you ever tried to turn into mythical animals or alien animals?" Naruto asked him curiously. Beast Boy paused at this. Huh, I've never actually tried to do that before, he said, as he scratched his chin. Well, it is something you should consider trying to turn into. It never hurts to have options, Naruto said. Beast Boy nodded at this. Plus, if we fight aliens, some of my earth animal forms might not work against them, he said. Yup. So let's go down the list and see if you can turn into anything cool, Naruto said with a confident grin. Beast Boy smiled at this and nodded. Sometime later. Naruto and Beast Boy were out in the city, just hanging out. They just left a video game shop after buying some games. Thanks for the new game, Naruto, Beast Boy said with a smile as he held up the new game Naruto got him, which was Horizon Forbidden West. Dude, you've earned it. You learned how to turn into a, Naruto was saying before he saw something out of the corner of his eye. What's up? Beast Boy asked, looking where Naruto was looking. I thought I saw a green dog running into the park, Naruto said. Dude, I'm right here, Beast Boy said, waving his hands for emphasis. I know, but we should probably check it out, Naruto said. But. My new game, Beast Boy said, as he made a begging face. It will be okay, Beast Boy. It will be waiting for you back at the tower, Naruto said, as he made a shadow clone to take the game back home. Make sure you install it, dude. Beast Boy yelled after the shadow clone, who smiled and gave Beast Boy a thumbs up before he ran off. Naruto and Beast Boy took off into the park, with Beast Boy turning into a green dog so that he can track the other dog easier. As they looked around, Beast Boy sniffed around and soon found a scent before he howled and pointed with his nose. Lead the way, lassie, Naruto said with a chuckle. Beast Boy growled at him with a glare before he ran off. Naruto followed after his friend but noticed what looked like a spaceship flying above the park. What the? Naruto said as he ran towards it since it was going towards where Beast Boy was anyway. Before he could get close, a green blur tackled him and made him fall to the floor. Beast Boy, what did you go and do that for? Naruto asked as he sat up. The green dog tilted his head at this before he started to chase his tail, barking happily. As Naruto looked at the dog, he noticed that this dog had slightly lighter skin than Beast Boy, which he knew was impossible since the tone of his skin never changed. Naruto then looked for the spaceship and saw it flying off after its underside closed. Oh geez. You're not Beast Boy, are you? Naruto asked the green dog. The dog looked at Naruto and chuckled. You're quite smart for a human, he said with a smile. Naruto quickly bolted up at hearing the dog speak. You can talk? He asked in surprise. I'm not exactly like the dogs on your planet, the dog said as he sat down. Obviously. Well, I'm Naruto. Do you have a name? He asked. The dog shook his head at this. Sadly not. My owner has the mind of a child and never thought to give me a name, he said. Well, that's no good. You should have a name, Naruto said with a frown. Well, if you're offering suggestions, I'm more than happy to hear them, the dog said with a smile. How about Bradley? Naruto asked with a smile. That is most acceptable, the now named Bradley said with a smile as he wagged his tail. So, do you know how to track your owner? He took my friend and I need to find him, Naruto said. Well, I could help you if you can help me get my owner to treat me better, Bradley said. Deal, Naruto said as he took out his communicator to call in his friends. With Beast Boy. Beast Boy was in the spaceship, wearing a collar and leash, while an alien that looked like a giant toddler made of gravel was laughing as Beast Boy changed into different animals for him. Come on dude, I wanna go home, Beast Boy said as he turned back to normal. The alien frowned at this and looked at Beast Boy. You don't like Soto? He asked. Beast Boy said as he could tell this guy had the mentality of a child and even he wasn't one to insult a kid. Soto smiled at this. Good boy. Okay, we go home now, he said as he turned to his ship controls. Hey, I'm not a pet. And this is my home. Beast Boy yelled as he pulled on his collar. Soto ignored this as he started his ship, which started to float. Suddenly the ship stopped, making Beast Boy fall over. Soto looked out of the window and saw Starfire pushing down on his ship with a determined look. Outside. The others were watching Starfire push down the ship, slowly getting it close to the ground. Naruto whistled at this as he still couldn't believe how strong Starfire was. Focus, lover boy, Cyborg said with a smirk as he readied his arm cannon. Yay, we have a friend to save, Terra said before she used some massive pieces of earth to try and help push the spaceship down. Raven used her powers to wrap around one side of the ship to help pull it down. When the ship reached the earth, Raven used her powers to force open the door, but Soto stomped his way out, making the earth shake. Whoa. Now that's a big toddler, Naruto said as he saw why Bradley was annoyed with his owner. No. You won't take my pet. Soto yelled as he slammed his fists down at Raven, who made a barrier, which made his fists bounce back and cause him to stumble. Starfire shot forward and threw some starbolts at Soto, which made him back away from Raven. Terra raised her arms and made the earth dig out from underneath Soto, which caused him to fall on his back. Cyborg fired his sonic cannon at Soto, making him stay down. Naruto then jumped up and threw some kunai at Soto, and when they struck him they exploded. Thanks for the seals, Kurama, Naruto thought, grateful that the fox demon taught him how to make seals, which included paper bombs. When the smoke cleared, Soto was revealed to be on his feet, barely affected. Soto then started to sniffle and started to throw a tantrum. Wow, Bradley wasn't kidding. He is like a little kid, Naruto said with a sweat drop forming on his head. Suddenly, a green rhino slammed into Soto's back, sending him flying to the ground. Beast Boy. Starfire said with a smile at seeing her friend. Beast Boy turned into his normal form and gave her a thumbs up with a smile. Soto then got to his feet and looked at Beast Boy with an angry look. Bad dog. Soto, punish. He yelled as he took out a remote and pushed it. When nothing happened, Soto looked at his remote in confusion. Beast Boy threw his collar to Soto, which he picked up. When he looked up at Beast Boy, he saw a green dragon glaring at him. The other Titans looked at this in surprise. Whoa, Terra said with wide eyes. Booyah. Cyborg yelled with a smile as he pumped his fist. Starfire smiled at this, finding Beast Boy's new form most impressive. Since when can he do that? Raven asked with a quirked eyebrow. Since me and him started training together. Sadly, he's only limited to 3 minutes with forms like this, Naruto said. Wait. Forms, as in more than one? Terra asked him. Naruto smiled at this as he nodded. Beast Boy roared at Soto, making the alien fall to his back from the force of his roar. Don't hurt Soto. He yelled in fear as he started to cry in terror. Beast Boy turned back to normal and rubbed the back of his head. Geez dude, I didn't mean to scare him. I just wanted to make a point, he said. Bradley then approached Soto and looked up at him. I believe he has learned not to be mean to those smaller than him. Haven't you, Soto? He asked. Yay, good boys aren't bullies, Naruto said as he approached and smiled at the alien in a comforting way. Soto nodded at this. Bully's bad. I'll be good. He yelled before he ran to his ship. Wait for me, Soto. Bradley yelled before he followed him into the ship before it took off into space. Well, that was weird, Raven said flatly. Mad Mod was way weirder, Terra said, shrugging her shoulders. You're unharmed, friend Beast Boy? Starfire asked as they all approached him. I'm fine. A little stiff from that dragon form, but I'll be okay, Beast Boy said as he stretched his arms. Dude, that was so awesome. Cyborg said as he slapped him on the back. And I thought dinosaurs were impressive, Terra said with a nod. Thanks guys, Beast Boy said, smiling at them. Okay team, let's head home. Toothless here has a new game to play, Naruto said with a smile. Beast Boy groaned at this, but smiled as his friends laughed as they all headed home. Days later, at an abandoned warehouse. Harley Quinn was sitting in a chair while watching some news reports about the Titans with a scowl on her face as she stroked a hyena. Everything okay, boss? A minion asked nervously. I have noticed that Whisker's team hasn't dealt with a lot of city-destroying threats besides that alien invasion and some fire demon. I feel they need to be tested, Harley said with a mad grin. How will you do that? The minion asked. Easy. Did you make contact with that idiot with the light abilities? Harley asked. Yes. We brought him here like you asked, the minion said as some other minions dragged in Dr. Light. Ah, so this is Dr. Light. You know, I heard the Titans made quick work of you before, Harley said as she got up and walked towards the villain. Yes, that witch of theirs cheated with her dark magic, Dr. Light said with a scowl. Well, that's not fair at all. How would you like to have an edge against them so you can get revenge? Harley asked with a grin. Dr. Light raised an eyebrow at this. What do you have in mind, Miss Quinn? He asked her curiously. Harley pulled out a file from her desk and opened it, showing a teen girl with pink hair. The girl looked to be a teenager, with blue eyes and 2 pieces of her pink hair poking up, almost like an insect's antenna. She wore a white blouse with a blue collar, light blue sleeves that seemed to be made to look like crystals, a dark blue skirt and white boots. I have done some research for you, and this brat should make a good power source for you, Harley said, handing the file to Dr. Light, who looked over the file, with his eyes widening in surprise at what he read. This could power a weapon I have had in mind for years, Dr. Light said with a grin. I look forward to you destroying the city with it, then Harley said with a grin as Dr. Light left. Let's see Whiskers deal with this, Harley said before she started to laugh maniacally, with the hyena joining in. A few days later. Naruto and the rest of the team were just relaxing in the common room, not really doing anything, when the alarm went off and a red siren was flashing. That's new, Beast Boy said, as the siren was something he hadn't seen before. It's only set to go off if something that could destroy the city is attacking, Cyborg said, as he used his tech to pull up what set off the alarm on the holo screen. When the screen came on, everyone saw a giant-looking robot firing lasers at the city. The head part looked to have windows all around it, which would allow the pilot to see 360 degrees, with cannons on either arm. For a better picture, imagine the giant mecha suit that Kuvira uses in Legend of Korra. The Titans were shocked at seeing the lasers take out whole buildings easily, with only one shot. "Dude," Beast Boy said with wide eyes. "Who could have such power?" Starfire asked. "It doesn't matter. What does matter is that we take this thing out," Naruto said, as he put on his mask. The others nodded at this, as they followed him out of the tower. In the city. The giant robot was stomping through the city, while citizens of the city were screaming in terror as they ran while trying to avoid the destruction. The robot kicked a car out of its way, which flew at some running kids when the truck stopped in midair, thanks to some dark energy grabbing it. The kids looked up and saw Raven floating in front of them, holding her hands out and glaring at the robot. "That moving kids," Raven said, as she threw the car at the robot, which struck it and exploded, causing the robot to stumble backwards. "Thanks, Miss Raven." The kids yelled together before they ran off. "Huh, who knew you liked kids?" Terra said, as the rest of them arrived. Raven said nothing, as she and the others went to confront the robot. "Ah, the Teen Titans finally arrived." Dr. Light's voice yelled from an intercom on the robot. The Titans paused at this in surprise. "Didn't Raven put you in the nut house?" Beast Boy asked, with folded arms. "The Doctor of Light is a squirrel?" Starfire asked with a tilt of her head. "The FFT. Naruto said, as he tried to contain his laughter, while the others laughed. "Star, I hope that you never change," Naruto said, as he shook his head and smiled. "I refuse to be insulted by you brats. I finally have the power to bring you and this city to its knees." Dr. Light yelled, as the robot took aim with a blaster on its arm. "Titans go!" Naruto yelled, as he and his team attacked the robot. Starfire threw some starbolts at the robot, but they just bounced off of it. Cyborg aimed his sonic cannon at one of its knees before firing it. Once it hit, it barely seemed to do anything. Raven used her magic to try and make it stay still, which worked for a moment before Beast Boy charged at the robot's legs as a woolly mammoth and slammed into its legs, which made it wobble slightly. Terra's eyes glowed yellow as she raised her hands, making the ground itself shake and raise several boulders up. She then made a sharp motion with her hands and the boulders started to break and fire small pieces of rock at the robot's head, like a machine gun. The robot covered its face with its arms, not noticing Naruto running up his back while charging an imperfect wind Rasengan. When he made it to the top, he slammed it into the head. When the attack was done, Naruto jumped over to a rooftop and looked at the robot and saw that he barely made a crack in the armor. "Man, what is that thing made of?" Naruto said with a frown. "Ha. It will take you fools forever to do enough damage to stop me from destroying the city," Dr. Light said as the robot aimed one of its arm cannons at Naruto. Naruto ran across the rooftop and when he made it to the edge, he jumped as the robot fired. Starfire instantly flew over and grabbed Naruto as she held him by his arms as the robot's blast destroyed the building. "Thanks for the save, Star," Naruto yelled, looking up at his friend. Starfire nodded at this and flew over to the others who were taking cover while Raven, Terra and Cyborg provided cover fire. "Any ideas?" Terra asked Naruto as she continued to fire small rocks at the robot like before. Naruto nodded at this. "I made a crack in the robot around the head that one of us could use to get in and try to shut down the robot from the inside," he said. Beast Boy looked over Cyborg's shoulder and saw the crack Naruto was referring to. "Dude, that thing is too small. Who do you think can?" he was saying before he trailed off as he realized something. The others looked at Beast Boy as they all instantly knew what Naruto was thinking. "The mouse could easily get in," Cyborg said as he continued to fire at the robot. Beast Boy paled slightly at the idea of going in on his own. "Beast Boy, you're our best bet to get an edge over this guy," Naruto said as he threw some paper bombs at the robot, causing them to blow up once they hit the chest area. "We have complete confidence in you," Starfire said as she threw some starbolts at the robot's leg, trying to cause it to stumble. "I would recommend going after Dr. Light and not the power source, since that may be too complicated for you," Raven said as she picked up some cars and threw them at the robot. Beast Boy scowled at this, but said nothing as a car nearby blew up from another blast from the robot. "Whatever you're gonna do, Beast Boy, you better do it now," Terra yelled as she tossed a large boulder at one of the robot's arms, causing it to aim the cannon somewhere else as it fired. Beast Boy nodded and took off after transforming into a fly. "Do you think he can handle this?" Raven asked Naruto. "Of course. He may be a goofball, but heck, so was I when I started," Naruto said. "Was? Ha, you still kinda are," Cyborg said with a smirk. "Hey. If I'm a goofball, you all are idiots for following me. Naruto yelled as he and the team scattered to continue the fight. He's got you there, Sai. Terra said with a chuckle, as there was no argument for that. But Beast Boy. As Beast Boy flew through the robot as a fly, he noticed that 2 guards with blasters were guarding a door with a warning label on it. I bet that this is where Dr. Nightlight is, Beast Boy thought. As he snuck up behind the 2 guards, and in an instant he turned into a gorilla before he grabbed them both by their heads and slammed them together, knocking them out. Boom. Double stealth knockout. Beast Boy yelled with a fist pump as he turned back to normal with a smile. Hello. A female voice said from behind the door the guards were guarding. Beast Boy looked at the door in surprise. Oh geez, this must not be where he is, he thought, as he mentally berated himself for wasting time on this. Is anyone there? I need help. The female voice yelled in a scared tone. Beast Boy paused at this and thought about his options. What would Naruto do? Beast Boy thought as he rubbed his chin before he remembered what Naruto once said. A hero's priority is saving people, so don't hesitate. Beast Boy nodded at this and walked to the door and opened it before he entered the room. Beast Boy looked around and saw that it was what looked like a chamber where they would find an engine. Only here, there was a teen girl inside a glass cage with wires and tubes connected to it. Who are you? The teen girl asked. I'm Beast Boy of the Teen Titans, miss. Beast Boy said. Cole, the girl said as she looked at Beast Boy with interest as she never saw a person that was green but smiled a little at him. Why does Dr. Nightlight have you locked up in his robot? Beast Boy asked her curiously. Cole smiled as she giggled at the name before she turned serious. He's using me to amplify his weapon, she said, before an ethereal yellow light started to charge above her cell. Cole's body instantly turned into what looked like crystal as the light engulfed her before dying down as they both heard an explosion outside. Wow, Beast Boy said, his eyes wide in surprise. Cole's body turned back to normal and she frowned. That doctor and his men captured me after killing my caveman friend so that he can use my crystal form to amplify his weapon, she said. And if you do this transform when the machine starts charging, you will be hurt. Beast Boy asked her. Cole nodded at this. Yes, I think it might kill me. And I can't exactly fight back in my crystal form since I can't move in that form, she said. Beast Boy nodded at this. Okay, stand back, he said before he turned into an elephant and slammed his head into the glass container. This caused the glass to shatter all over the room. Beast Boy then turned back to normal and smiled at Cole. Okay, let's get you out of here, he said as Cole walked away from the chamber. We should try and sabotage the robot first before we leave, Cole said. Any ideas? Beast Boy asked as he looked around the room. Cole looked up at the roof of the destroyed chamber. I think if we reverse the power when it tries to charge again, it will make it overload, she said. Beast Boy looked up and saw the roof of the chamber light up, ready to charge again. I'll just wing it. Beast Boy said before he turned into an electric eel and let the energy strike him. This caused the chamber to begin to spark and start to overload. Beast Boy turned back to normal and groaned. Okay, that was different, he said as he shook his head. It worked though, so we should leave. Cole yelled. Beast Boy nodded in agreement as he scooped Cole up in his arms bridal style before he ran out of the room. Outside, the robot was sparking and shorting out as it was starting to stumble. What's going on? Dr. Light's voice yelled out. Well, it looks like BB improvised, Cyborg said with a smile. I hope he can get out of there before this thing explodes, Terra said. Suddenly, the chest of the robot bulged as a T-Rex forced his way out with a roar, with Cole on his back holding on tight. The now heavily damaged robot then fell to the ground in a heap. Most glorious, friend Beast Boy. Starfire cheered as she and the other Titans ran to greet their teammate as he transformed back and caught Cole in his arms before he put her down. Who's the girl? Raven asked curiously, looking at Cole. Oh, I'm Cole. Nice to meet you all, Cole said as she smiled and bowed her head at them. What were you doing in that robot? Naruto asked, gesturing to the destroyed robot. Oh, Beast Boy saved me from that thing, Cole said with a smile at Beast Boy. Yay. Get this, that quack was using her to amplify his robot's power, Beast Boy said, jerking his thumb at the destroyed robot. How is she able to do that? Naruto asked curiously. As they were talking, Dr. Light finally crawled his way out of the robot and took aim at Beast Boy with his palm and fired at him. Cole saw this and instinctively jumped in front of Beast Boy as she turned into her crystal form. The light blast from Dr. Light hit Cole, and after a moment the blast ricocheted and hit Dr. Light, sending him flying into a building before he fell to the ground in a heap while groaning in pain. Like that, Beast Boy said, looking at his surprised friends. Not bad, Naruto said with a nod as he approached Dr. Light. Indeed, most impressive. And you look so pretty as a crystal, Starfire said with a smile. Cole turned back to normal and smiled sheepishly as she rubbed the back of her head. Thanks, she said with a slight blush. Naruto grabbed Dr. Light and picked him up by the front of his outfit. Okay, I know how you don't have the resources or the brains to think of this plan to use Cole as a power amplifier, so you better talk, Naruto said. I'm not telling you anything, Dr. Light said. Fine, then I'll just ask Raven to do it, Naruto said with a smirk. Raven nodded at this and approached with a small smile that was anything but comforting. Dr. Light paled at this and shook his head. Okay, I'll talk. It was he was saying before he got interrupted. Suddenly, a beeping sound was heard coming from the back of his neck before Dr. Light's head exploded. This caused everyone to be shocked and horrified at this. Beast Boy frowned at this and covered Cole's eyes as he blocked her view of the gore. Starfire covered her mouth in shock. Cyborg scowled at this, along with Terra, as this was definitely a first for them. Raven frowned at this and used her powers to block the view of this from any civilians that were nearby. Naruto gained a hard look and placed Dr. Light's corpse on the ground before he took off his cape, which he used to cover the body. With Harley was watching live footage of what happened and laughed maniacally at the looks on the Titans' faces. Nearby, some figures were watching. One was what looked to be made of clay, the other was a green female with plant-like clothing, and the third was what looked like a humanoid shark. These were Clayface, Poison Ivy and King Shark. Wow, I didn't think Harley was this cold-blooded, Clayface said to Ivy. Ivy frowned at this and nodded. Oh, relax, I only had the one bomb from my days with the Suicide Squad. This was just so I can mess with Whiskers some more. I know how much he likes to pretend he's above some gore, Harley said as she turned to her friends. So, no boom for us? King Shark asked Harley curiously. Of course not, Nanu, Harley said with a smile, putting her friend at ease since she knew King Shark was simple-minded. So, do you have a new plan? Clayface asked her. I do actually. See, I'm looking into getting a new recruit that would be perfect for getting close to Whiskers, Harley said as she pushed a button on a remote, changing the image on the TV to an image of Jinx. You looking to get an apprentice, huh, Harley? Clayface asked with a smile. Harley smiled at this and nodded. Indeed, my dear Clayface, indeed, she said. Titan's Tower. The team and their new friend Cole were in the common room, talking with Cole. So, you have nowhere to go? Naruto asked her, wanting to be sure. Cole nodded at this. Then you can stay with us, Naruto said with a nod as he smiled at her. Indeed. You can be a Titan and be our friend. Starfire said with a smile as she flew close to Cole and pulled her in for a hug. Raven and Terra nodded at this as they approved of the idea since Cole seemed to have good instincts. Beast Boy smiled brightly at this, glad the girl he saved was staying. Well, aren't you happy? Cyborg said with a teasing grin. Beast Boy paused at this and gave Cyborg a pleading look. Fine, I'll be silent around her. But, I expect you to stop messing with my meat, grass-stained, Cyborg whispered to him. Deal, Beast Boy said with a nod as he knew that was the best deal he was gonna get. Welcome to the team, Cole. And don't worry, I'm sure we can get you trained and find out more you can do with your powers, Naruto said with a friendly grin at their newest recruit. Cole nodded and smiled at this, glad that she found a place to belong. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.